What's happening, YouTube? Flash Speaks, man. Another video. I just ran across a podcast by a former New England Patriot and Philadelphia Eagle cornerback, and I think he might have played for a couple other teams as well, Asante Samuel. But I think he's mostly noted for his time with the Patriots, where he was able to win a Super Bowl, at least one. And then I know he was with the Eagles. He had some really good seasons there. I think he's now eligible to possibly make the Hall of Fame. And he did, and I believe he didn't get in yet, right? So he's upset about it, which is normal. That happens. But here he got into like a controversy with Deion Sanders, and somehow if they opened up this whole discussion about who's better out of Deion Sanders and Asante Samuel, and whether or not he can even be mentioned with Deion Sanders and so on. I want to talk about this, man. Now, this is one of them subjects, dog, I could talk to you about forever, all right? When I played football, high school, cornerback was my position. Left side, taking on your best receiver, whatever, especially against teams that could play. Also, semi-pro football, Red Raiders. You know what I mean? That's me. I'm that. You on the island out there with me? Trust me. You know what I mean? And any of y'all out there, believe me. You know what I mean? You want to go out there and test yourself? You welcome to this island. You know what I mean? Just talking a little crap to y'all, man. But so Asante Samuel, listen, I'm gonna tell you, it was a phenomenal football player in my opinion. A little underrated, I believe. Now, we'll say it like this. I know in 10 seasons, okay, from what I saw, he has about 51 interceptions all total. That's very good. 6 he was able to return for touchdowns. Good numbers. When you look a little deeper at his numbers, though, you look a little deeper at first of all, the style he was. He was, for the most part, a cover 2 corner, zone corner, who kind of like didn't really kind of shy away from man to man. Was also not necessarily exceptional in run defense as well, because he's low undersized. I believe Asante is either 5'9", 5'10", light guy, definitely under 200 pounds. So he's one of those corners that people put borderline. Like, he never was given the title of like a shutdown and stuff like that. And for those types of guys, oftentimes it's difficult. But even with guys that are labeled shutdowns, it's difficult to get in. The cornerback position is just hard. You're talking about Ty Law, a lot of the great things he done. It took him a while to get in. The great Eric Allen, who I believe is an all-time great, just got in this season after, a decade or so, Now, Asante Samuel, that's why he shouldn't really be shocked. I think it's really tough to get into the cornerback, to make the Hall of Fame as a cornerback. Now, when we started discussing where he ranks and falls, now if you just look at the outward numbers and you compare Deion Sanders' numbers, it may look like he's a little closer than it is. You know what I mean? But there's a big difference between him and, say, Prime. Prime, number one, when we start looking deeper at the numbers, Prime had a better interception rate. When we look at it, Asante Samuel's interception rate was around 31, 32%, which is pretty good. Pretty much, that means you test this dude 3 times, he prone to get you, one of them times, all right? Deion Sanders had an interception rate, though, that was an amazing 51%, okay? That means damn near you test this man twice, he gonna get you once, right? So there Deion kind of wins. And then there's just the whole thing with Deion. This is the main thing for me, all right? And I'm not even gonna get into the man versus zone corner thing, even though I personally prefer the man corners, right? The guy that can line up next to you and is athletically enough to stay with you, right? With Deion, though, a lot of people don't give him credit for his ability to play zone. And the thing about Deion was he was very intelligent. He was always prepared, did his homework. And this is typically what the zone corners are known for, because that's what they have to rely on. Zone corners typically they don't have the physical attributes. They're not usually a better athlete than the receiver that they're dealing with, so they have to rely on those things. And this is where Asante Samuel kind of falls in. Whereas Deion, he can line up and so on. But he doesn't get enough credit for his ability in zone as well. Now, the other thing with Deion, that we gotta remember is his numbers were what they were, excellent. And this was in a situation where he was a guy that was avoided. Deion Sanders was avoided. I remember whole games where teams literally just would not throw the ball over there. There were certain quarterbacks that just wouldn't throw the ball his way at all, whole games. Whole playoff games, Super Bowls, we're just not throwing the ball over there. So Deion is bored. Deion would have to use trickery in order to get tested. Like, he would have to make it appear that he's beat just so he get tested in order to get some work. Right? That's how scary he was. And I think for me, that's the main thing that'll separate him from a guy like Asante Samuel. Because I remember Asante Samuel with the Eagles. He was with the Eagles 4 years. So I got to watch a lot of him, game by game. And listen, he had 2 phenomenal seasons with the Eagles. 1 year he had 9 interceptions. All right, then in another year he had 7 interceptions. That's phenomenal. But he was never a player that, the teams feared like that. Like, he could be up against receivers. So this means he's tested more than Deion. And he's beat more. Despite that, he's beat more. So those are the things I'm looking at. For me, both phenomenal players. Should Asante get into the Hall of Fame? I think so. I think so. I think he was a better cover corner than guys like Champ Bailey, for example. I know Champ Bailey, and I know I kind of dump on him a lot, but and Champ Bailey gets this reputation as being this superior athlete and all of that. Now, where I like Champ Bailey more so was in his run defense, right? Champ Bailey can almost play like a linebacker somewhat, right? Those are the things I kind of liked about him. In coverage, I think he's a little overrated. But my point is, I think he's about that. I think Asante is about that level. Though there are different types of players, I think he's about that level. I don't put him with Aeneas Williams necessarily, though. I would say amongst the zone corners, Asante is up there. So he's more like in the Richard Sherman type of class. Though Richard Sherman will get a little bit more notoriety because he was part of Legion of Boom. He was famous, he was on a famous defense. Now, Asante was on some good defenses, but the Patriots never really had a famous defense. They were always known for Bill Belichick and his intellect more so. He was more like his personality more so than I think, just the cast of players. That's my perception of it, right? But he's like a Richard Sherman. The Richard Sherman is bigger, so a lot of times that people have factored that in as well. But in terms of the level of danger passing that way, I would put him there with about Richard Sherman. Okay, but Deion Sanders, bro, Deion is different. Many consider Deion the greatest corner of all time. I'm actually in the minority where I have Deion ranked second or third. For me, the greatest cornerback that I remember seeing play was a cornerback by the name of Mike Haynes, who was drafted by the New England Patriots in the late 70s, reached his height around in the mid-80s. Well, I would say he became a household name in the mid-80s, especially on the 1983 Raiders, where they shut down one of the most potent passing games ever. Back the Washington Redskins, when they had the 3 Smurfs, right? Art Monk, and those guys, right? So this is where Mike Haynes and Lester Hayes, those Raiders, This was the Stickum gloves, Lester Hayes, where they shut down that Washington receiving corps. And I remember that clear as day, right? Mike Haynes was really the guy that made me like cornerbacks. Because when I first got into football, not gonna lie, I wasn't into quarterbacks, I wasn't into wide receivers. I was into running backs. You know, watching Marcus Allen run, I always thought he was smooth. Watching Eric Dickerson run, Earl Campbell, those guys back then. Mike Haynes made me love the cornerback position. Got me interested in it. Of course, Deion later makes you love the cornerback position because he made it more of like a glorious position. He made it fun. You know what I mean? So, just long story short, Asante Samuel, like, he's nice. He's nice, and I think he should make the Hall of Fame eventually. He not Deion, though. Deion was different. Deion is up there with, the Mike Hayneses, the Mel Blunts. If y'all don't know these guys, y'all gotta look some of these guys up. These dudes were phenomenal. They were changers. You had Mel Blunt rules because of how he played and how dominant he was. Everson Walls was another one that I really liked in the 80s, man. I like Minifield, like who was a corner who played for the Browns back then, back in the 80s, man. 80s really underrated cornerback play, bruh. And then you had the 90s, Eric Allen, Deion Sanders, some of these guys started to come in. Then he gave birth pretty much to champion Charles Woodson. Love cornerback play, man. But that's pretty much what I just want to say on that, man. Shout out to Asante Samuel. I like his little podcast and everything. I did like him as a player, Philadelphia Eagle. But he's not in Deion's class, bro. Like, and honestly, like, yeah, he's not in Deion's class, bro. Because at the end of the day, your impact is going to show up in how often teams are willing to test you. That's really the bottom line thing for me. And that's all I got, man. Tell me what y'all think on that. Peace out.